Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Councillor John Ward, Chairman of the Joint Museums Committee. I would like to welcome you all to this meeting and quickly go over some general housekeeping. This meeting is being held in person at County Hall and is also being streamed live on the County Council's YouTube channel. The recording will also be available to view afterwards. A fire alarm test is not expected during the meeting. If the alarm sounds, we must evacuate County Hall. In the event of an emergency, please make your way to the nearest exit and meet at the muster point located on the main car park. When using your microphone, please make sure it is switched on and you speak towards it. This will tell the cameras to focus on you and ensure you can be heard on the live stream. When you have finished speaking, please push the button to turn off your microphone, as this will allow the system to pick up the next speaker. I would also like to welcome Ellen Parvey from the Arts Council England to the committee, as this is her first meeting as a co-opted member. And also Suzanne Linden from Kings Lynn and West Norfolk as her first meeting as well. Thank you. Right, apologies for absence, please.
Thank you, Chair. I have apologies today from Councillor Richard Laws, Councillor Saul Penfold, Councillor Julie Boychek-Colton and Felicity Devonshire. Thank you.
Minutes of the meeting held on the 25th of July from page 5. Does anybody have any queries on those, please? Are you happy that I sign those as a true record of that meeting? Thank you. Are there any declarations of interest, please? No, thank you. I don't have any particular updates today, so that brings us on to Breckland Area Museums Committee. And I'll ask Councillor Robert Kybird to introduce the minutes of the meeting held on the 15th of September, please.
Thank you very much, Chairman. So this report covers the period May to July 25. Heritage Open Day was well attended with over 200 visitors, which is good for Ancient House because you can't put 200 people in there all at the same time. To mark the anniversary of Prince Frederick Dulip Singh's passing in 2026, there will be a new exhibition opening in January. Also, the current HLF project we have for the museum centenary has been chosen as a case study for the National Lottery Heritage Fund website, and project partners Peter Banks and Priya Atwell joined Oliver Bone and Melissa Hawker in conversation about the project, and there is a link to that in the minutes or in the agenda. The Teenage History Club have been continuing their work, which is, I think, becoming known nationally, exploring Dulip Singh family and empire, and they attended the V&A Museum and attended a performance, a new play called Goodnight Maharaja. The museum helped the town celebrate both VE Day and VJ Day on the appropriate days in the calendar, and that was and the Friends actually supported the VJ Day event held in the local Methodist church, so that was good cross-working the town. We also managed at short notice to bring together sufficient funding for the Essex Cultural Diversity Project to deliver their Festival of Thetford and the Punjab, and I know that those attending thought it was a very well, I think several people here attended and enjoyed the dancing and the martial arts, etc. The Friends and Volunteers continue with the scanning and documentation of the postcard collection, which we acquired from the estate of the Osborne estate, and I think it's 1,300 postcards that are being digitised and can be used in digital displays. We then moved on to the Gressenhall report, and we welcomed back Hannah Jackson for a long-earned rest, or well-earned rest. Hannah is the Western Area Manager. Does that explain why Thetford is now regarded as being in West Norfolk on your display boards? I'll pass that one for further comment. So Gressenhall continues with its four main themes of special event days, days with a difference, school holiday activities, and ticketed events. Open Farm Sunday on the 8th of June was last year hit over 5,000 visitors, so a parking charge is slightly tempered that, and it is of course weather dependent. They also had a Super Science Day in July, a home front stories from Norfolk in 1945 in August. The summer holidays programme focused on the theme of noticing nature. And on the 21st of September, we celebrated the Friends of Gressenhall's 50th anniversary, and that was opened essentially by Baroness Gillian Shepherd, who in fact was the founder treasurer, and then Robin brought us up to date on Kick the Dust, which is now in excess of 5,000 interventions. So. And that's spread across the county, so it's a very wide-ranging reach for that programme. And that's all I have to report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I was present at that last meeting, but I'm not shown on people present. Okay.
Really?
No, lots of good things going on at Gressenhall and Ancient House. Any questions from anybody?
I will make sure that we'll have a meeting coming up soon, so I'll make sure the minutes are corrected.
Right. No questions. Thank you. We'll move on then to item 6, Great Yarmouth Area Museums Working Group, meeting held on 24th September, and I'll ask Councillor Geoffrey Freeman to introduce that, please.
Thank you, Chair. As always, our meetings are extremely interesting. It's rather a short, not short report, so don't get excited. It's just the fact that it just covers a period, July to September, but that obviously is the main holiday period. During that time, you've heard me talk in previous meetings about the mechanical marvels up in one of the upper galleries, and the automaton and Mr. Fuller, and the ability to be able to go in and see how these wonderful little machines were crafted and to make your own mechanical marvel. And I've still got the video on my phone, which I'm quite proud of. But all good things have to come to an end, and we had to get that out the door for the 14th of September because we knew, and we told you before, that Miffy's birthday, 70th birthday, was coming up. And it was really important that we got the galleries open and ready. And we had the official opening 2 weeks ago now, and very well attended. I must say it was outstanding because for any of you who haven't been, do go and have a look, because the simplicity of these drawings, you know, just mainly in black and white and so simple, they are so meaningful and obviously so well loved by the children. And it was lovely to have one gallery where you could look at all the examples, and then across the corridor, well, it was set up a bit like a kid's playroom. So we had tents and others go in and really gain the benefit. And it's quite interesting that if you look on television recently, where they're rebranding some of the children's entertainment, they've gone away from all the mad colours and gone down to very basic 1 or 2 colours and designs. So yeah, Miffy's doing well. They had a brilliant weekend that they opened, and the shop did a roaring trade in all of the, well, I call it paraphernalia for Miffy, but it's all the sort of stuff that they do buy. So it's really good. Obviously, there's lots going on in other parts. The themed events days have been really, really successful. One of the best ones was the home front 1940s recreation in Time and Tide. it was made into a World War I air raid shelter, and it was quite good. And the courtyard outside, I'm sure you've all been there, was where you could go and gut fish. And we thought, well, nobody would play with it. Nobody would go along with this. The kids might. But the mums and dads were all in there learning how to gut fish, and it was quite good. Lots of noise, lots of activity, and lots of herring scales, I understand. It's quite interesting that the Winter Talks programme has been launched, and these are really, really popular. So in November, we've got one from Alfred Savin and the Fossils collection of the Cromer Project from Cromer Museum. Friday the 5th, and it's very pertinent, especially today, the Hemsby Arts Project. This is on coastal erosion and how it affects our communities. And if anybody had been down on the coast this last weekend, on yesterday I should say, you would have seen what the sea can do to the coastline. And then we go on to another interesting one in March. If you're interested in that sort of thing, we've got Victorian funeral traditions, which I think will be a really, really interesting one. We moved on then to, obviously, the ongoing project, which is changing tides, upgrading and changing the museum for the future, keeping everything going well. And I think the feedback we got from the National Lottery was certain things we had to concentrate on, maybe at the gallery's end, and that's being taken on board. They're working with one of our long-serving partners, which is the Royal Museum at Greenwich. And obviously we have, again, that the Gloucester Museum belongs in Great Yarmouth. I don't want to disappoint Lord Danett or anybody else, but that's where it should be. It was wrecked off Yarmouth, and it should be there. And we are the maritime part of the county. But I'll leave it at that so I don't upset too many people. It was nice to know that all the hard work that's been put in by the staff had led to them getting the full accreditation, which I think is really important because it shows everybody the standards that we have in the museum service, not just locally, but throughout the whole of the county. And it does give them opportunities to probably get sponsors, but also loans from other museums, which is very, very worthwhile. So we're really pleased that that went through, and we did congratulate the team, and we hope we passed it on to all of the other sites. The gas holder project, which is quite good. If any of you go to Yarmouth, there is an old rusty, decrepit gas holder on Admiralty Road, and they're not quite sure what is happening, but we're in at the forefront cutting out bits of steel, and these are being taken over to we've now found the contractor, and we're using Holcomb Forge, I believe. I think that's right. They've got a good track record with the museum service. They worked on the Castle Museum project, and we're having some form of sculpture. So this sculpture will go hopefully in the courtyard of Time and Tide. Not quite sure the interpretation, but hopefully it will embrace the fact that gas was energy of the past, and that we now look possibly onto the future. One of the most interesting things we talked about was the upcoming projects, where including a display with the Greek amphoria, and we were trying to work out as to where Robin had pinched this from, as to whether they'd been out and got it from somewhere abroad, but apparently we think it came out of a collection from somebody who maybe went on a grand tour, and that will be forming another part of the projects. The front of house operations are going really, really well. We have, by the way, got our cafe back. So if you fancy coming to Great Yarmouth, the cafe is back, and it's absolutely brilliant. You couldn't want for anything better. Also, we've been trialling through the summer, opening the Elizabethan House Museum on Saturdays. This was some funding we got with the National Trust, and just waiting to see the actual final figures, but it means that we've had extra visitors to one of our much smaller museums, which is probably quite important for us. Learning, obviously we learned from Colin the whole of the learning project. One of the most interesting ones, linked back to my Greek amphoria, was what the Greeks did for us, and we all know the fun that people had with what the Romans did for us. So we look for that one. Obviously, Robin covered very conclusively the Kick the Dust programme, which we see as being such an important part of the work that we do. And there was a lot of work going on through Kick the Dust and the YMCA, but when you look at the outcomes and look at the comments from the young people, I think without doubt we can see the benefit of the Kick the Dust programme. And unless I've highlighted anything else, well, basically, one thing I did highlight was that the data shows that more young people are in the high mental health bracket at the end than at the start of their engagement, which is so improving. It just shows that these projects do help young people with if they do have mental health problems. And all of this links through to Flourish, which is the Norfolk County Council ambition to be a county where all children and young people can flourish. And I would just end on a note that you may have seen in the press that the Broads Society have awarded Time and Tide a rather impressive cup. We're not quite sure how big it is, whether it's this big or that big. But also, we've got some dosh. £250 has been awarded for the youth engagement that the Time and Tide has done. So I think, again, congratulations to the team and all the people who work in our museum. They've done a superb job. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All very interesting. Thank you. Any questions about Great Yarmouth? Yes, Councillor Kyburn.
Thank you, Chairman. At that meeting, there was a discussion of how to link the Greek amphora with Norfolk. And I did find the link afterwards, which was that the Iceni coinage was inspired by earlier Greek coinage.
Thank you.
Right, thank you. Okay. Anything else from anybody? No, thank you. I will note those minutes. Item 7, Norwich Area Museums Committee. The minutes are not yet available, so that will be deferred until the next meeting, which will be on the 6th of February next year. Item 8, Kings Lynn and West Norfolk Area Museums Committee. Minutes from the meeting held on 15th September, and I'll ask Suzanne Linton if she wants to say anything about those.
Thank you, Chair. We also welcomed Hannah Jackson back. We're very grateful to have her in the Western area. There was also a celebration of dogs, Woof, a celebration of dogs. That was another very innovative exhibition that was on at the Lynn Museum. We had the Newman Legacy project is continuing. That's recording our archives that we have. And I would also like to draw attention to highlighting that the Museums Committee has secured full accreditation, which was welcomed by the committee there. Moving on, learning and outreach. Again, this is something that is continuing to do really well. And as previous colleagues have mentioned, the Kick the Dust programme is continuing to flourish. True's Yard report. We had a report on the upcoming exhibition to commemorate the 150th anniversary of the Great Gale of 1875. Stories of Lynn. Here we had some nice, good visitor figures being reported, so that's encouraging. And I think that covers the main areas of our report. If I've forgotten anything, please let me know.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. Any questions for Kings Lynn, please? Yes, Councillor Banbridge.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, it's not a question, but it's a thank you to Steve and to Robin and then to Oliver for getting the model that we're having at the True's Yard exhibition. The opening's next week. And we've got people coming from Scotland because it was about saving lives of Scottish sailors, or fishermen and sailors. And there's going to be a wreath laid at the cemetery on Hardwick Road, and so it's a good thing we're doing in Kings Lynn. To the Scottish people are very keen to keep it going. So it's really well received. And as I said, thank you for the loan of the model, which is really good. Thanks.
What is it a model of?
Of the ship that was part of the rescue. But it's the fact that we couldn't easily get the model, and if it hadn't been for Steve and Robin and Oliver, we wouldn't be having it as the exhibition.
Right, I shall come and have a look next time I'm down that way.
Yes.
Thank you. Right, anything else on King's Lynn? No, thank you. We'll note those minutes then. That brings us on to item 9, Norfolk Museum Service Finance Monitoring Report for 2025-26 from page 71. Pass over to Steve, please.
Thank you, Chair. Members of the committee will know that the service has been carrying some financial pressures this year, primarily due to the timing of the reopening of the Keep. You'll see in the papers that we're forecasting break-even. That has been possible largely because we've been able to draw down on a historic business reserve that was known and in place and has been in place since the beginning of the financial year. However, I'm very pleased to report that whilst it is early days, the revenue being generated from the reopening of Norwich Castle since the beginning of August has been really positive. So whilst early days, and I'm sure Robin will pick up this in more detail when we give you an update on the reopening and the first couple of months of the new operation, that is great. So again, it's ticket income, retail income, catering income, and events income, which is contributing to the significant improvement to the revenue position. So a little bit too early to do the maths on that, but that's in the general direction. We're also deeply grateful to Arts Council England and great to have Ellen with us today to have had some support for the known pressures and challenges which the service has been facing through the government's Arts Council supported Museum Renewal Fund. So between the Keep performance and Arts Council and DCMS, really grateful for that support and heading hopefully in a better position than we have been at the beginning 6 months of the year. So steady progress, and we'll have firmer figures to present to you once we've done all the maths and reforecasting in the coming months. Happy to take any questions that you might have. Thank you.
All right, any finance questions from anybody? Yes, Councillor Schmira.
Yeah, thank you very much for that report. I mean, this is, I was just wondering, I suppose, about benchmarking. One of the concerns that has been raised about the reopening is about the pricing for and the affordability of the Keep, which I have considerable sympathy for. And I was just wondering what benchmarking was done to set that price, because I do know that if you look at the historic dockyard at Portsmouth, I was appalled actually how expensive that was, and things like Dover Castle is eye-wateringly expensive as well. But it would just be interesting to know how we rank with other sort of comparable historic monuments and sort of castles in that regard, or historic buildings around the country, please.
Thank you for the question, Councillor. I will say, just as a headline, it's a remarkably sophisticated pricing model for which we've done a huge amount of benchmarking. But I'll pass to Robin, who'll tell you kind of how it's come about and how it kind of is working in practice. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Yeah, really good question. And as you say, we do benchmark our pricing across the whole service. And the way we approach our pricing is to basically group our museums in terms of those sites that have comparable offers. And for the new pricing for Norwich Castle, that corresponds with the admission price for Gresson Hall. So in terms of us having a clear rationale around grouping our museums internally, the offer at the castle is comparable with the offer at Gresham in terms of likely dwell time. So Gresham Hall is predicated on at least a half-day visit, and for a lot of our visitors, we know it's a full day, so it's a destination attraction. And I think members that have been to the castle, I know most of you, if not all of you, have had the opportunity to have a look at the castle since we reopened. It very much falls into that category of destination attraction. So the correlation of the pricing of the castle and Gresham Hall in terms of that internal modelling makes sense. We benchmark widely across the sector, and I think as you've identified, Councillor Shamir, if you look at a number of comparable attractions, we are very competitive. So we always look at what key organisations like English Heritage and National Trust are charging, but also some of the more sort of commercial attractions. And in terms of our level of pricing, I think we are very competitive, actually. And members that have been to London and other centres, you'll be aware of the sorts of charges you can be asked to pay for actually a much more modest visit. I think a really important point here, though, is that although our headline charge is for the castle and Gresham Hall £17, if you book in advance using the online booking system, it's £15.30. And if you are on means tested benefits, it's free. We also have, as I'm sure members are aware, we've always been very aware of seeking to, I guess, do two things: to maximise income to support the sustainability of the service, but also to recognise where price forms a barrier to participation. So we've been, over the years, developing a whole range of different approaches to mitigate that impact. And that includes, I've mentioned already, means-tested benefits. That's free admission to both the castle and Gresham Hall. We have our Twilight ticket, which is really competitively priced. We have free admission for our Kick the Dust young people, so anybody involved with our Kick the Dust programmes across the county gets free admission to any Norfolk Museum Service site. We have free admission for Norfolk school children when they come to visit us. And then we support, obviously, as members are aware, free days like Heritage Open Day, Lottery Players Day, Open Farm Sunday, etc. So we seek wherever possible to mitigate those price impacts, but also recognise that we need to generate income. So I think, and there's always work we can do to sort of review our strategy, and the introduction of free admission for means-tested benefits is something that we've adopted in the last couple of years. We started it at the castle and evaluated it, and we've now extended that to Gresham Hall. So we're always looking at opportunities to reflect on pricing. But I think in terms of the price point of the castle, particularly if you're taking advantage of the online offer, it's really competitive. And the other thing we're obviously encouraging as many visitors as possible to do, particularly if they live in Norfolk, is to take out a museum pass membership. And if you're an adult, you can get one of those for less than 50 quid, and that entitles you to free admission to any of our 10 sites as many times as you like. So that's really competitive again, and it's been very pleasing that since the castle reopened, we've seen a really good increase in museum pass sales, and obviously that's great for the museum pass holders, but it also means we can engage with them more effectively as well. So that's something we have been putting a lot of energy into. So we are very alert to it, but I think actually we are pretty competitive.
I think Joe might want to add just a PS to that very comprehensive overview from Robin.
Thank you, Steve. Just to add to what Robin has said in terms of the museum pass, so as he said, a single adult ticket pass is £45.90, which I think is an absolute incredibly good value. But I just wanted to add that part of our Museum Renewal Fund grants from Arts Council is being used to develop a big marketing campaign, which we're filming this week, about Museum Pass, so that we can get the word out to as many Norfolk residents as possible. And it's been designed to be delivered ahead of Christmas, so that we can encourage people to buy museum passes as Christmas presents. So hopefully that'll create a steady, sustainable income for the service and make visits to our museums as affordable as possible.
And of course, with the museum pass, you get 10% off in the cafe and the shop as well. Have you finished there, Steve?
I did, yes, indeed.
Finance from anybody? No? Well, we've considered and commented on the latest monitoring position of the revenue budget, capital programme reserves and provisions and forecast outturn for 2020.
All the council's areas. So it, again, set out hopefully in a way that is helpful to you as committee members. Key risks, live risks, and then we have a couple that we would consider managed and effectively. No further work is being done on those at the moment, but like flooding, the flooding risk, for example, but helpful for you as members to have visibility of those, and that you can use them to inform any questions you may wish to ask of us. So on page 79 under 2, to bring to your attention the risks that have changed in any areas since the last time that we brought them to you. So 2.1, for those risks with a target date at the end of September 2025, these have been reviewed and amended to the end of the financial year 2025-26. This includes the active risks RM 14381, which is failure to successfully deliver the Norwich Castle Gateway to Medieval England project within the budget and to agreed timescales, RM 14027, theft of museum objects, and RM 14499, Future Arts Council England funding. So for RM 14381, the Castle Keep, the risk remains on the risk register as an ongoing risk because the project is still being delivered, but effectively through past the opening we can take some views on that and where it sits. RM 14027, theft of museum objects, that's an open ongoing risk relating to historic risk, but obviously is a live conversation, particularly in the museum world at the moment, given national news and international news, so never far from our thoughts. And RM 14499, and that's relating to Arts Council funding from the next National Portfolio Organisation period onwards. So modest changes to the live risk register. Happy to take any questions that members might have. Thank you.
Yes, Councillor Linden.
Thank you, Chair. In light of recent thefts in Paris, have you found a need to reassess our security, particularly at the castle?
Thank you so much. Yes, I think is the answer. We certainly will be keeping that risk under review, and we will possibly bring that to you in a slightly expanded form at a future meeting. But Robin can definitely give you an update and an overview on some of the actions we've taken, particularly in light of both the very sad news from Paris, but more recently closer to home from Cardiff and other places. So again, hand over to Robin, who can just give you an update on that approach we're taking. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. So, mindful this is a public meeting, members will be not surprised that I won't go into any specifics, but just to provide members with reassurance that inevitably, collection security, building security is something we take incredibly seriously, and it's something we have a continued focus on, and indeed we have been making over the last couple of years actually quite significant improvements to both physical security of buildings, which is the first line of defence, but also looking at how we can improve the security of not just display collections, but also those collections held in store. We have a dedicated post that is focused on collections security, and I think that has put us in a strong position. As the recent cases have highlighted, there is a perpetual risk. We have in the past seen increased risk levels around particular types of collections. So members may recall a few years ago there was a spate of thefts relating to jade, thefts relating to rhino horn, and as Steve mentioned, most recently we've seen a number of really distressing thefts around gold, which seem to relate to the very high price of gold, with Bronze Age gold artifacts being stolen very distressingly to, it seems, meltdown, which is appalling. So we do have an ongoing focus on security, but we have also, in the light of the recent thefts, reiterated how important it is that all staff remain vigilant. We have been reviewing individual museums and individual galleries where we have higher risk collections. We already have really robust measures in place, but we have been undertaking a review, actually completed this week, of some of those higher profile objects, that the security measures are as they are. We've also ensured that gallery invigilators and those undertaking regular security patrols of our galleries are aware of the heightened risk level we have at the moment and are alert to not just thefts happening, but also the sorts of suspicious activity where people are coming onto sites and spending time looking at cameras, looking at cases. So that sort of security and vigilation, staff presence to sort of spot that happening, but also to act really important. So it's a continual risk. It is something we take seriously. We are, as I say, putting in staffing and some capital funding at the moment, and have been doing for some time actually, to look at what improvements we can make. But it does seem that at the moment we are in a spate of really distressing thefts, and I think we are in a strongest position as is reasonable at the moment, but something we can never be complacent about. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Okay. Right, any questions on risk? Yes, Councillor Shamira.
Could I ask a follow-up onto that, if I may? And I suppose it's a question of balance, because at one point you want to make sure that the items are as accessible and as available to people so that they can see, ideally, sort of touch or feel, and sort of, there's that lovely quote from Good Will Hunting, I bet you don't know what it smells like in the Sistine Chapel. That sort of being able to really experience the past. And then there's, of course, the practical need and the very real need and the very real risk, of course, of thefts and losses. Just from a sort of operational side, where are you looking to get that balance? How are you looking to make sure that that balance is just so that people can still experience the objects and yet that they're not in jeopardy of being lost forever?
Again, a really good question, and it's something we do on a sort of very regular basis. And a good example would be something like the British Museum Partnership Gallery, which we've just opened at Norwich Castle, which a really high-profile gallery, fantastic objects, over 900 wonderful objects. So as part of the planning of that gallery, what we want to do is ensure that people have access to those wonderful things, not just our collections, but collections we have on loan, including from other museums, highly significant collections from the British Museum, Victoria and Albert Museum, etc. So we have a duty to not only care for our collections, but the collections we have on loan, but equally a duty to enable people to see and enjoy those fantastic objects. And what we wouldn't ever want to do is fill our cases with replicas, because that sort of defeats the whole object. So, as you say, it's about balance. It's a sort of risk-assessed approach in terms of ensuring that the security provided is commensurate with the collections that are on display. For a site like Norwich Castle, members will not be surprised to hear that has the very highest level of security in terms of the building and individual galleries. We worked really closely in the case of the British Museum Partnership Gallery with the Arts Council England National Security Advisor to ensure that at every stage in the planning of that gallery, whether it's around CCTV or alarms or types of cases that we're installing, we are meeting standards that are appropriate for the types of collections that are going into them. And the government indemnity scheme, which covers national loans of objects, has requirements within it which the Arts Council Security Advisor advises museums like ours on ensuring that we meet. And we regularly borrow material, as members are aware, from all across the country and all across the world. So this is sort of familiar territory. So I think it's using the skills and expertise we have in-house, and we also work really closely with the corporate property team here at Norfolk County Council around security matters, but also seeking that really specialist advice which the Arts Council Security Advisor can give, which means that we're using best practice at the planning stage so that we can be confident that when the real objects go on display, we've considered security to the appropriate level. But at the end of the day, we want people to enjoy those lovely things, and it's been, in the case of that gallery, it's been a real joy that so many people have been wedging themselves into the British Museum Gallery to enjoy those fantastic collections, and that's what it's all about. So as you say, it is a balance, and I think within the service, whether it's at, the high-end galleries like the British Museum Partnership Gallery or the smaller displays we have in some of our more community-based museums, the same sort of approach is taken in terms of assessing risk, and that then informs the approach that we take. We do have a few replicas on display, particularly material that we don't own. So Ancient House in Thetford has some replicas of the torques that sit in the Thetford treasure, the Roman Thetford treasure that sits in the British Museum. So we do have a few replicas around the service. We normally highlight the fact they are replicas, of course, but they're a tiny percentage of the overall range of collections on display. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Anything else on risk management from anybody? Yes, Councillor Kybird.
Thank you, Chairman. I presume the no photography rule applying to the British Museum Gallery is part of the overall security measure.
As it happens, it's not. We're about to adapt that restriction because that related to a particular lender requirements. So general sort of smartphone photography by general visitors, we will be in a position to permit, as we do in most of our galleries, unless there are lender restrictions. What we don't permit is more professional photography when people are getting tripods out and using selfie sticks and all sorts of things that then have a risk to other visitors in the collections, and obviously commercial filming. But again, this is where in the case of that gallery, our invigilators are so important, and there's always a member of staff in that gallery. Part of their role is to engage with visitors, and absolutely, but it's also secondary to their main remit, which is around security and monitoring. And going back to what I was saying about the role of our invigilators in sort of keeping an eye out for strange behaviour, and that can include people taking photographs of things that visitors don't normally take photographs of, and that's where we'd be raising the alarm in terms of this is an individual and we need to be monitoring what they're doing. So where possible, we try. It's a bit like the question around access to collections. People love coming in and taking photographs, and where we can facilitate that, that's fine, and it's part of the visit. So it's where people are perhaps doing it for more nefarious reasons that we need to rely on our invigilators to be sort of acting as a bit of a deterrent, but also spotting that type of behaviour. So we are hoping to be lifting that restriction very shortly once we've got the new signage in place, advising people what they can't do, but also what they can.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor Adams. No? All right. Anything else on risk management? No? Then we're asked to consider and agree the proposed key updates to risks as set out in 2.1 and the active and dormant risks as per appendices A and B. All happy on that item? Thank you. Yes.
Could I just check? You said, Steve, that you might be bringing this back for the next committee meeting in February. Is that right? The one about our risk in terms of loss and thefts?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. I mean, we keep all our risks under review. That one has had quite a bit of looking at, and I think, yeah, all live risks, but particularly in light of the national and international situation, we'll see whether that needs any revision. The interesting thing about risk registers is, you know, they're often relating to a particular risk, like the historic properties risk comes from a particular point in time and then sort of carries through as a revision. So sometimes if it's a new risk, it's probably worthwhile kind of considering as a new risk rather than a sort of a change to a risk which is historic, if that makes sense. But yes, I'll consider it with Thomas. We'll let you know, and you'll certainly see any kind of advance changes for consideration well ahead of the meeting. But all risks are live and all risks are under review continually. Thank you.
Okay. Item 11, Norfolk Museum Service Performance and Strategic Update Report from page 91. Hand over to Steve again.
Thank you, Chair. And for members who've been with the committee for a while, you'll recognise that report is in a slightly different format. The content remains reassuringly familiar in terms of key headings and things, just to make ongoing comparison and sort of headlines to bring to your attention. Easy to make those comparisons. So as always, I'll deal with the report just headlines only in two halves. The first is sort of operational performance, and we've touched upon quite a few of those today, and then some of our strategic partnerships and any changes in the second half of the report. So just to bring your attention to a few things, and happy to take questions at any point, and certainly at the halfway stage. In terms of the performance, the visitor numbers up to the 31st of August were 163,052 compared to 143,032 for the same equivalent period. And we're only just picking up the start of the new redevelopment numbers in that period, but you can see that even in that kind of just a few weeks period, combined with some good performance across the rest of the 10 museums, were in a good. So Norwich Castle itself starting to change following the redevelopment, as you'd expect, and Hope. Cromer Museum has done very well, and Strangers Hall. So sometimes we look at the analysis as to why those individual museums are performing better, and obviously look at those museums where we feel that there could be improvements. School visits remain pretty buoyant, but again, this report only picks up the pre-school holidays, school summer holidays period, so it's still relatively small numbers compared to the overall. And again, in terms of performance, we're now starting to see larger school groups and bookings at Norwich Castle. That was expected, and will hopefully continue to grow as we sort of start from a very high bar at Norwich Castle, and we're going to go to new levels in terms of the overall operation. So item 7 on page 93, we pick up for members the global picture, which I think is through the sort of digital engagement website and social media. It's a different lens to look upon the operation of the whole service compared to the area museum committee reports, which you've heard reported on, etc. So again, the Norwich Castle keep reopening as you'd expect. Gained a huge amount of traction across all channels. Joe and the team, I thought, did an absolutely outstanding job in terms of marketing the reopening, but more importantly, keeping that excitement and that momentum going. So the pickup has been really strong in terms of the general public, but we've had a lot of national engagement from our funders and our stakeholders, and lots of kind of engagement. The British Museum have been enormously helpful, as you'd imagine, in terms of driving those very large numbers that you can see there. So those are the high performing posts on Facebook, on Instagram, etc. On page 94, just again a comment on some channels are sort of always sort of in the ascendancy, some are sort of decreasing in terms of both importance and take up. That's just normal within the social media kind of sphere. LinkedIn is proving to be a particularly interesting channel for us at the moment. High levels of high quality engagement with funders, stakeholders and key partners. So it's coming from a sort of relatively low base to being one of our most important channels, not least because you can have very definite kind of professional conversations, I'd say, with sort of linked stakeholders and partners. So that goes across all the channels. Teaching museum, I'll pass on to Jo, who will be the best person just to give an update on both our new teaching museum manager, Louisa, and how she's getting on, and just how the new trainees are going, but looking good.
Thank you, Steve. Teaching Museum continues to be an initiative that we're extremely proud of. It has a very good track record now, with over 80 trainees passing through the scheme and into very good quality jobs. We're now at the stage where some of our initial trainees have now reached director level in museums, so it's going very well. We have 4 trainees this year working on collections, commercial activities, exhibitions and learning, and they have been a huge support to us, particularly with the reopening of the castle. That extra capacity and support has been really, really valuable. We have just reached the point where we have decided the roles that we will be shortly advertising for the next cohort, who start on the 1st of April. And next year's cohort, we will be having 4 trainees, one based at King's Lynn, the Newman trainee working on collections. We will have a trainee working with Dr. Leanne Melbourne on natural history collections. So they will be splitting their time between the natural history collections at Norwich Castle and also working on the new geology gallery at Cromer. We're going to have a communications trainee helping to support the increasing sort of quality and outputs that you've seen with our communications and social media and those sort of things, media, press coverage. And then collections, we always have a very strong collections offer. This year they will be focusing on rationalisation and storage with the collections team. So we think that will be a very useful and popular role with our candidates. And as Steve mentioned, Louisa Wickham is our fairly new, but it's been in post a little while, but I will be bringing her to a future meeting so that you can meet her, but she's our new teaching museum manager, and she's settled in very well. And yesterday she was at the British Museum talking to them and other partners about training initiatives across the whole country, so she's well networked there now.
Thank you, Jo. So onwards with my report into Kick the Dust and page 97. It's been touched upon. Thank you to our councillors for, again, reflections on how important a scheme that is. It remains a really high priority for us and for partners. Deeply grateful to the Arts Council, particularly for their support in that programme, National Lottery Heritage Fund, likewise, and colleagues in public health, etc., as well as district input. So it's a big collective effort where we are continuing, we believe, to deliver a nationally significant programme for young people, doing extraordinary good and driving the service forward with a lot of energy. I'll just pass to my left to Robin in case he wants to add anything in terms of headlines. As I said, it's a big ongoing project and we keep it as a high profile within the report, both the area museum committee meetings and the joint museum committee meeting, so you've got plenty of visibility on some of the rich detail in that, because then you can help inform and shape the direction that we're going in. But Robin may wish to add a few words.
Thank you, Steve. So we're on the cusp of issuing the new youth engagement strategy that's been developed to sort of shape our youth engagement work over the next few years, and our youth board that comprises Kick the Dust young people who've been involved with us for, in many cases, years, have helped to shape that strategy. So that means we're in a really good place in terms of strategic direction for Kick the Dust. As Steve said, we're very grateful for the funding support we had particularly through Arts Council England and Public Health, and that's enabling us to maintain the network of really active project workers across the county. But we've also been reshaping the offer, and we continue to do that. So, for example, we've just been joined by a new project worker, Emily Hopkins, who's going to be working between Norwich and our environment hub at Gressenhall, with a particular focus around supporting our young people teams looking at environmental matters. So we already have an embryonic green team who, amongst other things, have created exhibitions for Gressenhall. But Emily will be able to really provide that group with support and also extend its reach and increase numbers across the county, and we'll be working with our existing Environment Hub colleagues at Gressenhall, but also linking up with Leanne up in Cromer in terms of the opportunities around coastal change through the work we're doing with the North Norfolk District Council hosted Coastwise project. So that's a nice example of the way in which the programme is sort of evolving. We're on the cusp of going out to recruit our new Kick the Dust project coordinator. So members will be aware that Christine Marsden, who was with the project from the start, retired a few months ago. And Tricia Hall, who's normally based in Yarmouth, has been doing a fantastic job steering Kick the Dust in the interim, and will very shortly, we hope, be going out to recruit for Christine's successor. We still have a really active youth board. I chair the meetings of the steering group, and we always have sort of 6 to 8 young people involved with those meetings. And that means that, you know, youth voice continues to be very much at the heart of Kick the Dust. So lots of ambitions, particularly on the part of young people, to do lots of lovely new things. So we have a really creative group of project workers who will be supporting them with delivering those ambitions, and very grateful for the kind words from members from the link to the Area Museum Committee minutes. But yeah, really good programme, and some really clear momentum, I think, going forward.
Thank you, Robin. So just to continue on page 103, partnerships. So again, just to state, particularly for new members, how we approach things within Norfolk Museum Service. It's incredibly important that with support from Arts Council England, National Lottery Heritage Fund, others, that we provide what we hope is, to the best of our ability, a comprehensive county-wide service across all areas equally, with bespoke services and support at local levels needed where they are. So the services that we provide go far beyond the 10 museums and the direct services that we deliver. 2 to bring to your attention today. In the past, obviously, I think we've had a focus on West Norfolk. That continues in terms of support for things like the Guildhall development, but at the moment just in the processes of re-agreeing very excitingly the service level agreement we have with Broadland and South Norfolk. So really important work there. Broadland and South Norfolk have particular requirements of the Norfolk Museum Service. We've always been happy to deliver some really exciting projects with them. In recent times, that's been focused on tourism activities, particularly relating to the Apple TV series Masters of the Air, working with the airfields and heritage sites in the south of the county. Likewise, we've supported Broadland, I think particularly in terms of some of their market towns work around places like Wyndham, most recently. So we're in conversations with officers to renew that agreement, to make sure that looking ahead for the forthcoming period, we're absolutely spot on for what our partners' priorities are and need to deliver there. So that's that one. We've touched upon North Norfolk District Council and Leanne, our new senior curator for climate change and dynamic coast, working with North Norfolk District Council, and the Coastwise project continues to do some really exciting, important project work. We'll bring Leanne back to you in due course to sort of update. I think she gave you her early thoughts and sort of ideas as the project sort of gets underway. We had the chance 2 weeks ago at the National Museums Association conference just to sort of draw that major project to the attention of the delegates and the national membership through the MA conference programme. Just to say that again, we think this is a really important project on a national scale, and is one we think we can get a lot of great outputs out of. Just coming on to 10, which is exhibitions across the county. We've had a few great updates on things like Miffy's 70th birthday over at Time and Tide, which is an absolutely fabulous family-friendly show, really lovely for our younger audiences. For those who've not had the chance to see it yet, we were very pleased to welcome some of you, including Councillor Savage, Councillor Ward, to the opening of the Paul Arago Visions of English Literature exhibition at Norwich Castle. It's a beautiful show, taking up from where Colin Self, the One Self exhibition, left over, but a really great contemporary art exhibition which has fantastic links into English literature, provision in terms of some of our teaching programmes. I think we had a teacher familiarisation visit there on Wednesday evening with a view to kind of school programmes, but it is a great show. It really is a great show, wonderfully startling work, and I think it will be a huge draw and a great complement to the redevelopments, which Robin will be talking about in a moment. The Watercolour Now show again is a really lovely show in our Timothy Gurney gallery at the castle. Huge and impressive watercolour work, not at all what you'd expect typical from the medium, but really beautiful show. May the Toys Be With You continues to do great work at Lynn Museum, as does the Surviving the Railway Memories of Far East Prisons of War exhibition, which is nearby. Stories of Lynn. So really important exhibitions, a great full now programme, especially with the reopening of the Castle Keep. I will pause there before I go on to strategic developments and hand over to Robin on my left to give you an update on the Royal Palace Reborn project and where we are. But happy to take any questions you might have on operational performance, exhibitions, or any of the programmes we've touched upon. Thank you.
Okay, anything from anybody? I hope that Masters of the Air comes on the normal television, because I don't have Apple, and it sounds like a really interesting programme. I'd urge you to go and see the Paul Arago exhibition. There's some wonderful prints there, especially I particularly like the nursery rhyme ones. There's a very good one of the farmer's wife chasing after the 3 blind mice with a big carving knife. Right, anything else on what you've heard so far? No? Okay, back to you, Steve.
Thank you, Chair. I'll hand over pretty much instantly to Robin. So Robin's going to give you an update on the redevelopment following the reopening to the public on the 7th of August, and then continue into what members asked us to bring back to you, I think the last time we met in the summer, which was an update on commercial opportunities. So Robin will do a kind of 2-part presentation now for you. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. So in terms of the Norwich Castle redevelopment, as I'm sure members are aware, we had a very successful public opening. So we opened the doors to visitors on the 7th of August. Prior to that, again, as members will be aware, we'd undertaken a number of sort of test events to sort of try out the spaces. But 7th of August was the moment in the spotlight in terms of lots of lovely visitors coming in to give us their impressions of what we've all been working so hard on. And I think we're all really pleased with the numbers of visitors that we've seen, but also the really positive reaction. Just to say that there's still work to do, so we expect to be probably making adjustments over the next 6 months or so in terms of wayfinding and interpretation on the back of evaluating. You get live visitors in your spaces, that you get a feel for how they work. So we're making some modest adjustments, but the reaction has been really positive, which has been lovely to hear. We are working with our evaluation consultants who've been with us throughout the project to capture visitor evaluation, and they're with us next week during half term to talk to visitors to again sort of flesh out the evaluation that we've been doing since we opened. But we are listening very carefully to what our visitors are saying, and already have been making some changes to some of the operations of the site to sort of reflect some of that early feedback. The Channel 4 documentary, The Castle, which still remains live on the Channel 4 player, has, we think, been really influential in driving visitors following the school holidays, and anecdotally a lot of visitors coming in saying they've seen that programme. It's had really good word of mouth as well. I think originally Channel 4 were going to be removing it from their Watch Again schedule at the end of September, because it's had so many views, they've kept it going, which is fantastic. And I don't know what it would be worth in terms of marketing budget, that programme, but it's been fantastic for us. Just to give members some sort of headlines in terms of admissions. So we opened to visitors on the 7th of August, so we did about 3 weeks of August, and in that time we saw 41,524 visitors, so just in the 3 weeks of August. In terms of comparisons, we have to go back to the pre-COVID year of operation, which was a really big year for the castle, well over 200,000 visitors. And in August of 2019, we did just over 24,000. So you can see that in just 3 weeks, we've really sort of done much better than that. In September, the castle saw 35,344 visitors. And again, if you look back to 2019, that figure was about 16,000. And in October, up to the 19th of October, we've done over, nearly 16,000 visits. So from the day we opened on the 7th of August up to the 19th of October, we're nearly 94,000 visits, which is really good. It's really good, and certainly puts us well on track to meet and I think exceed our original first year of opening target, which was 300,000 visits. We're not expecting, obviously, those initial numbers to sustain at that level. And in terms of our business planning, we've been assuming numbers will drop over the next couple of years to more like 250, 260,000. But actually, at the moment, we're very confident and encouraged by the way the numbers not only were really big in August, but also then sustained during September, and we're continuing to see that trend in October. So we are in that initial opening surge period, absolutely. It'll be very interesting to see where we are with numbers after Christmas, and certainly, this time next year will be really telling in terms of how that visitor profile is going. But certainly, so far, so good in terms of visitor numbers. As Joe mentioned, we've also seen really good uptake in Museum Pass, and with the investment from the Arts Council Museum Renewal Fund, we're hoping that will really enable a lot of those visitors to move across to Museum Pass so that they can become regular visitors, but also then enable us to communicate with them more effectively. So if we can transition as many visitors as possible across to Museum Pass, that's absolutely the sort of target for us. As Steve mentioned, we've also, it's been great to see schools in the spaces. So as soon as, almost as soon as term restarted, we had schools in the castle. We worked with some local schools to help us pilot some new sessions within the keep. So we have a Key Stage 1 offer, Life in the Castle. And we also are in development for a Key Stage 3, so Year 7, first year of secondary, maths-based session, Storming the Castle. We've been really busy for schools. Members may recall that during the construction phase of the project, we were down to about 60 school children a day coming into the castle. When the Clore Learning Centre came online, that increased to about 120. We're now up to capacities of about 160, 180 school children a day. I was walking around the keep yesterday, and there were children in every corner of, we had preschool, we had primary, we had post-16. Absolutely fantastic to see the range of use that the castle is being put to. A lot of those school visits are supported visits with our learning team, adding value, but we've also had a lot of self-guided visits as well, which is really good to see. So that's very encouraging. And then segueing into my next section, we've also then been able to start delivering some of the opportunities around commercial activity that the castle project brings. So I'm going to, with a bit of trepidation, move to the technology. And oh,
Yes.
sorry.
Sorry, maybe before we move on to that, could I maybe ask a couple of questions? First of all, that sounds really encouraging about the school children. Secondly, about mentioned earlier about making it as accessible as possible based on income. Shamefully, I haven't actually been to the since its reopening, but my less than 1 year old son has been as part of some kind of snaffle and it's sort of expo that you basically put on for sort of children and toddler groups. So just making it as accessible for literally all ages, I think, is wonderful, because I would like to think that he will become interested in heritage and history like his old man anyway. So we're starting him early, so thank you for that opportunity. That's wonderful to see and hear about. My question is about sort of, you mentioned, well, two things. One is about the Channel 4 documentary, which I did have the opportunity to watch. And I thought that was wonderful because it not only showed off the castle, but also showed off its interaction with Norfolk. And you'll have to, Steve, remind me again what that church was, where the door, the metalwork of the door was inspired by, because that was the best preserved medieval door that you used inspiration for. So there's sort of two questions. One is about encouraging visitor numbers. You've mentioned like the Channel 4 documentary, which was a brilliant piece of advertising for it. But where do you find, or do you do any research into how people found out about the museum so that you can basically encourage people to go in years to come, whether it's word of mouth, it's social media, it's Channel 4 documentaries? And then the second question is, sort of what has been the impact more widely for Norfolk as a whole? Have we seen like an uptick in people visiting sort of areas that were mentioned and were referenced and were linked to Norwich Castle? So apologies, there are a couple of questions there, and sorry to interrupt before we move on to this next step. I thought it would be useful to get answers to those, please.
So all really good questions. I can make a start, and I'll definitely hand over to Joe in terms of the sort of comms and marketing that Joe's been leading. Great to hear your son was in, and actually early years is a real area of focus for us, and members that have been into the castle may be aware that we've actually created a dedicated early years gallery. It's in the final stage of being fit out at the moment. We've had some test events in there. What that provides is a base for preschool groups. They can book it, have it as their base. It's a sort of mini castle with all its own displays, lots of lovely soft stuff that we sort of populate the space with. But it provides a really sort of engaging base for preschool children to come into the castle and then explore the rest of the museum. So many of the sessions will be involving our own learning team, and we have sort of nationally recognised expertise around early years engagement. We're working with a number of national providers at the moment, including the Art Fund, around our not only our early years provision currently, but also evaluating our early years work. And that includes working with some of the more deprived wards of Norwich, for example. So it's a really interesting area for us, and we try to get them young and then keep them with us. So in terms of early years, really interesting. The Channel 4 documentary, as you say, has been really successful, but perhaps I'll hand over to Joe to talk about that sort of wider marketing and comms.
Thank you, Robin. Yes, no, we've been delighted with how well the marketing campaign has been going. We've had some fantastic press coverage internationally. So it was on CNN, and it reached Sydney Morning Herald came and visited to do a piece. So we're delighted that it has attracted international attention. Just to answer your question about data and how we are assessing where our visitors are coming from. We have now instigated a very detailed survey that is sent out to every visitor who books online to start with, or is a member and who we have their details. And it has a lot of demographic questions which are optional to answer, but interestingly, a vast proportion of respondents are choosing or happy to answer those. But it also has ask questions about their experience and their visit and what they'd like to see different, so we can respond to that. It is a very detailed survey, and we've only just really got it launched. But in the first day, we had 500 responses in the first day that we sent it out. So we think we're going to be gathering quite a lot of very useful data. And from that early section, it would seem to me that it is proving the business plan aim of attracting visitors from further afield. So from the data that we've got in so far, as I say, it's very early in terms of being able to analyse it, but it would suggest that people are travelling further afield to come and visit us.
Okay, Robin.
Thank you. So,
Councillor Banbridge.
Yes, Councillor Banbridge.
Thank you. I was also looking for an opportunity to interrupt, but to say thank you very much for the tour that the committee was able to go on. It was really interesting, and I also have jotted down about the Channel 4 programme. I was quite impressed by the piece about the foundations, impressed that the castle was still standing, quite frankly, because I think it was quite thin at one end, wasn't it? And so I think if you haven't watched that Channel 4 documentary, do watch it, because it was very interesting. But the visit that we were able to go on was also very, very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Yes, Councillor.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask about homeschooled children, and if you have been reaching out to them, and do they also qualify for free admission?
thank you. And in fact, we've seen quite a bit of growth in the numbers of homeschool children coming in, and yes, they benefit from that. Across the service, actually, we've seen quite an increase in the numbers of homeschool children that are sort of not just coming individually as a family group, but are coming in as part of a sort of wider group as well. So our learning teams have delivered a number of sessions specifically for homeschooled children, where you get a number of homeschooled children coming together. It's certainly something we are, I was actually in a meeting with our learning managers yesterday looking at opportunities to capture data, and homeschooling is one of the areas we're looking at, because a few years ago we saw relatively small numbers, and they'd often be just coming in as individual family groups, but now we're seeing homeschoolers sort of coming together and us then offering specific programs to support what they're doing. Sometimes the timings of that can be interesting, because homeschoolers tend to be operating on a different calendar to sort of the children are going into school, who have those set holiday periods. So trying to accommodate that, presents some challenges, but it's a really interesting opportunity to develop what we do. It's a really important group for us to work with, and it's something we're sort of looking to capture more data about going forward. So that's something we can perhaps come back to the committee with in future, in terms of a bit more data about numbers. But certainly we are seeing homeschooling not just at Norwich in terms of making use of the sites across the service. But it's a really interesting area for development.
Any further questions at this point? I'll just ask one. The Channel 4 documentary, will that be available to us in the future for our own use?
So the documentary belongs to iFilm, but we're sort of having discussions with them at the moment around opportunities to sort of develop that. So absolutely, it's a really key resource for us, and one that we would, I think, want to be able to access in the long term.
And can I just add, thank you, Chair. The documentary, for those who haven't seen it, is really interesting. It was supposed to be time-bound on Channel 4's More 4, so the digital on-demand channel. It has been extended, I think, for the foreseeable, but actually it is beholden on all of us connected with the museum service to keep watching it and to tell people about it. So any help members can do in terms of publicising the fact that that is still available as a digital download and channel to enjoy would be great. Beyond that, as Robin said, we'll speak to the wonderful iFilm and to Charlie about that. We know also there's additional footage which wasn't used by the Channel 4 documentary, which is probably going to be extraordinarily interesting. So trying to work out if there's a way we can add that into some of our social media output or things like that. So working with iFilms to see what we can do, but the most immediate thing members can do to help us is tell people to go on the More 4 channel and download it and watch it and tell people about it, because it's been pretty successful, and it's a bit.
So at the last meeting, we were asked to give an update on our plans around commercial development, and the castle project has obviously been a catalyst for us really sort of focusing on building our commercial development, because it gives us a whole range of new exciting opportunities. And obviously our commercial activity does support things like our admissions and other work in terms of underpinning the sort of viability of Norfolk Museum Service. So it's really important that we look at any opportunities to build commercial income to supplement the income we generate through admissions, but also through our grants and other projects. So it's a really important area for us, and we have developed a commercial team, and the commercial team have actually provided me with a lot of information for this presentation. And although Norwich Castle is at the heart of our plans around building, increasingly building our commercial income, mindful it's something we've been doing for many years, it's also worth remembering that all of our sites, all of our 10 lovely sites across the county present opportunities for commercial income generation, and some of those are better placed than others, because a number of them, for example, Toll House in Yarmouth is a very small site. It's seasonal, but it's also very popular for paranormal evenings. So even our small sites that are open for just part of the year can provide opportunities for generating commercial income, in addition to the larger sites, Norwich Castle, Gresson Hall and Time and Tide. So it's something we're looking at across the service, and all of our site-based teams have over a number of years actually been very alert to commercial income generation opportunities. But this is all about taking it to the next level, particularly with the new facilities we have at Norwich Castle. To help with that, the team have been refreshing the online information. So on the right-hand side, you can see the new web pages which talk around the different spaces that are available to hire at Norwich Castle. So clearly we've got some fantastic spaces created as part of the new projects, such as the Great Hall and the battlements, but we've also got a range of existing spaces, the courtroom at Shire Hall, the benefactors room, the rotunda, that are able to continue to deliver activity for us. And we've got similar venue hire website refresh plans in place for all of the sites around the service. So it means that as a sort of one-stop shop for people very quickly finding out what the offer is, that will be a sort of high quality resource. So that's something that members can keep an eye on for themselves by just clicking on the Norfolk Museum Service website and looking at venue hire. Mindful of the sort of opportunities, though, particularly at the castle, we've also developed a new venue hire brochure. So this is just a sort of a view of the cover and one of the pages to give you a feel of the quality of this piece of literature. So this again is a sort of hard copy brochure. It's also available online. It's just going through the final accessibility sign-off process at the moment, so it's going to be going live online very shortly. And this is the key sort of vehicle we use to promote the more specialist commercial hire opportunities at the castle, liaising with local businesses, etc., to really raise awareness of what a fantastic space we have, and to create a really quality venue hire package. Venue hire is already underway at Norwich Castle. Members will be aware of the huge opportunities we've got with spaces like the Great Hall, and we've tried to, wherever possible, build in flexibility to enable us to support this type of commercial activity. So the picture of the two pictures on the left are of the Great Hall at Norwich Castle, which during the day is set up for visitors, absolutely, and for schools, with the thrones and the feasting tables and all the furniture, all of which has been designed to be removable very quickly. And behind the dais where the thrones are, we have a store that holds all of the commercial hire tables and chairs that we need to populate that place. And switching from the visitor offer to a commercial offer is something our teams have now been doing on a number of occasions. We're able to switch it round from the visitor offer that our general visitors experience through to a full banqueting offer with the sorts of tables and chairs you can see in the picture second from the left. Our team can do that in about an hour, and it's because we've built in as much flexibility as possible in terms of ensuring that all of the display furniture is demountable, all of the big graphic panels are on hidden casters, so the whole thing can be moved quite efficiently, and we can reconfigure the spaces quite quickly. It also means that spaces like the Great Hall can be set up with lots of different configurations, and that's something that potential hirers are provided with information about to give them ideas about how they can use the space. It can be set up for an awards type celebration. So the picture on the right is the Radio Norfolk Make a Difference Awards, which took place in the Keep a few weeks ago. Likewise, we've hosted a number of civic events, including the County Council Oscars. We've now hosted the first sort of formal sit-down dinner event, which is again that picture second from the left, which is where going forward we think there will be a lot of interest commercially. And again, we're working with our own caterers and with external caterers to develop the range of offers that mean we can offer a really compelling and unique banqueting experience. And we've already developed all the pricing around that. So we're in a good place in terms of the offer is there, we understand the market, we've got the pricing in place, and we're confident that operationally we can deliver really high quality events in a very unique setting. In addition to the castle, we're also continuing to sort of explore opportunities at our other sites around the service, and Strangers Hall is a good example. In Norwich, fantastic Tudor Merchants House. So we're currently talking to the Registrar's Service about developing a ceremony offer at Strangers Hall. Members will be aware that at the castle we average between 650 and 700 ceremonies a year in partnership with the Registrar's Service. Really successful partnership that provides a really high quality ceremony experience to customers. And we're looking at opportunities to extend that to Strangers Hall. We're also looking at developing opportunities around the fantastic garden at Strangers Hall, which is a real gem, right in the heart of the city, this fantastic garden space. We've already used it for a range of events and are currently planning a sort of Shakespeare in the Park event for next summer. So it's looking at the spaces we have across the service in terms of how we can develop that venue hire offer. Likewise at Gresson Hall, where again we've got fantastic facilities. So we've got, that's a picture on the left of Keppel's Lodge, which on big event days, like the recent Apple Day, is used as the ticketing base for event days next to the parking fields. It also serves as toilet facilities for the adventure playground. But it's also a space that can be available for hire. It's a self-contained meeting room with its own little kitchenette. That's the sort of space that we're looking to increase the awareness of and see that generating some income for us. At Gresson also, we're looking at some of the more unique opportunities around developing commercial activity, including building on existing programs such as ploughing days, where we can basically sell ploughing days for people to come into the site, work with our farm team, have a go at under supervision, working with our fantastic heavy horses. So where we've got those really unique offers, looking at how we can provide a, an appropriate commercial offer that links to that, but is very much in keeping with what the site is all about. The picture of the adventure playground on the right, we are currently developing a birthday party offer at Gresson Hall, a site which absolutely lends itself to kids coming in and having a great time. That's what they do anyway. But looking at opportunities around birthday parties, particularly focused on the adventure playground. And these sorts of activities can happen alongside general visiting. It doesn't mean we're having to close off sections of the site. It can all happen alongside the site operating normally for other visitors. Retail has been really significant for us. Our new, well, not so new now, retail manager, Harriet Johnson, has been absolutely fantastic in really challenging the way we run our shops within Norfolk Museum Service, and has put a huge amount of work into developing really good relationships with local makers and suppliers and UK suppliers, and moving away from plastic from China to create what are really unique retail experiences. And members that have been into the Castle shop, which opened last year, will be aware of how unique an environment that is now, and we've seen that then carry through into the level of retail sales, which we've seen really significant increases in turnover within our retail spaces, not just on the back of the increased footfall at the Castle, but on the back of actually having a much more diverse and relevant range of stock that really celebrates, Norfolk and the locations in which the shops are based. So on the left-hand side, you can see the new retail space at Norwich Castle, which, amongst other things, features a really strong brand of Norwich Castle branded stock. In the centre is the shop at Time and Tide, which at the moment is full of Miffy. They can't restock it fast enough at the moment. We're seeing extraordinary levels of sales linked to Miffy, which is great. And on the right, you've got the shop at Elizabethan House, also in Yarmouth, which our retail manager worked with the local site team to remodel, to again create a more welcoming visitor experience, but also to maximise sales. So there's a lot of work going on with our site-based teams to ensure that our retail offer is working as hard as it can. Likewise, our catering. We've created a new cafe and a new pop-up outlet as part of the Castle redevelopment, and we've worked very hard with our in-house catering team to really sort of maximise what makes our catering outlets so special. So I'm sure in Norwich everybody is aware of the importance of the Norwich Castle quiche, but also the really high quality of the baked goods and other catering that we do supply. So Norwich Castle has been seeing really good levels of turnover, particularly following the reopening of Norwich Castle, which has been fantastic. The team have also been working really hard supporting the commercial offer. So a lot of those events that I've been talking around, we've been catering for those in-house, which obviously maximises the financial return. Over at Gresson Hall, which is the second image from the right, that's the conservatory at Gresson Hall, again, we've been investing in that space, including redecorations, some new photography to make it a more welcoming space. And on the right, you've got the image of the cafe at Norwich Castle, which normally doesn't look like that because it's normally full of people. So really successful at the moment in terms of how the catering offer is working. But again, absolutely opportunities for development. As Councillor Freeman mentioned, really pleased that the new cafe operation at Time and Tide, which is a partnership with the Vault, has been working so well. So we've got a bit of a mixed economy in terms of how we operate our catering. The catering at the Castle and Gressonall is in-house. But we do work with external specialist caterers as well. The ceremony offer, I've already mentioned that in the context of Strangers Hall, but that is something that we already have been delivering across the service. A number of our sites are registered for ceremonies. The sites that see the biggest take-up of weddings, not surprisingly, the Benefactors Room, which is the image on the far left, that's at Norwich Castle, which is the ceremony room for the Norwich Registrar's Service. The image second from the left is Elizabethan House Museum in Yarmouth, which is, again, a fantastic space. The next image across is Strangers Hall, set up for a wedding ceremony, and the image on the far right is the chapel at Gressonall. So each of those spaces look and feel very differently. A number of them already operating really successfully as wedding and ceremony venues, but we are looking at opportunities again to really develop that offer going forward, with particular opportunities, I think, at Strangers Hall and Gressonall. Filming and photography, we do regularly get approached for commercial photography and filming. We've also started marketing ourselves more assiduously in terms of acting as a venue, and we've now organisations. But we've got, as members know, some cracking spaces that really lend themselves to commercial activity. Escape rooms, we have in the past, members have been on the committee for a while will recall that we did run a very successful escape room game at the Museum of Norwich with a company called History Mystery, but sadly that came to an end during COVID. But it provides a really interesting opportunity to use our very unique spaces in very different ways. So this is the recently reopened courtroom in the Shire Hall in Norwich. Again, Norwich members I know will be aware that there's been a lot of work taking place within that courtroom following a hideous outbreak of dry rot. That's all been dealt with. The courtroom is looking fantastic. It's already being used for school groups. We've had meetings in there, including the Norwich Area Museum Committee meeting. But it also lends itself absolutely to escape rooms. So we're working with a specialist escape room developer to create an escape room game based around the infamous trial of James Blomfield Rush, whose death mask is shown bottom right, a really sort of cause célèbre case that actually took place in that courtroom, and which the developer is really excited about developing into a escape room game that we hope will come online next year. We're also developing curator-led experience days. So Strangers Hall has already started with offering some bespoke tours, that ideal sort of birthday, Christmas presents, where you can spend a bit of time looking at collections, looking at the sites in the company of one of our specialist curators. So that's something we're looking to develop across the service, but we're piloting that at Strangers Hall. We're also looking at opportunities to maximise commercial return on our collections. So we have a really strong existing partnership with Art UK, and a lot of our fine art collections are held on that website, and members of the public can go onto the website and order prints. So we're looking at how we can develop that relationship with Art UK and I guess get more out of those opportunities, mindful of the fact that we've got fantastic collections and there's a real demand from people to get prints of their favourite paintings. So that's an area that's in development. We've already made some starts with that. We are generating some income from Art UK already, but it's about how we can sort of increase that going forward. Our conservation and design teams, members will be aware, we've got really specialist in-house conservation and design and technical teams who normally do a lot of work supporting our own exhibitions and our own collections management activities, but both of whom already do a lot of external work, and we support that. They have online resources that support the work that they do. So a number of external contracts are currently live. So design and technical team, as well as working for us, do work with a number of other external organisations, and the conservation teams around X-raying our ecological finds, and have a really well-established relationship with a number of archaeological field units who are involved in commercial field archaeology, who will bring objects into us, and lots, and in some cases large numbers of objects into us for initial study and X-ray. And that's proved to be a very effective pipeline of income that, again, we're looking to enhance wherever we can. We also look at commercial events. So Strangers Hall Christmas will be returning this year again. It was very successful last year. So we're looking to develop events that absolutely generate income for us, but also provide a really unique experience for our visitors. So as always with our commercial activity, whilst we are about generating income, it's also around, why are we here? Focusing on the building, focusing on our collections, focusing on our visitors, having the best possible experience. And we're also working wherever possible with partners. So we've recently been working with the Norwich Bid, who've secured funding to develop a conference package offer for Norwich, where one of the package of attractions that are part of this, and I think the first pitch for this new offer is going to be in Barcelona very shortly. So this is about international conference trade, national and international, with the various partners, and you can see them referenced there: Norwich Research Park, the UEA, University of the Arts, the Showground, the halls run by Norwich City Council, ourselves, coming together to collectively offer a really strong conference offer that individually we couldn't do. So that partnership with the bid's really interesting, and it will be fascinating to see how that develops. And now we've got the castle, which, as Joe was describing, has now got international reach in terms of awareness. We think we can add something really special to that partnership. So wherever possible, looking to work in partnership with others as well to help us build our commercial offer. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. To conclude the presentations.
It concludes the presentations. If there's any questions, we're happy to take. I've just got two more items quickly on the report.
Yeah. Okay. Any questions on what you've just seen? Yes, Councillor.
I just want to say what an excellent report that was. I think, as I mentioned last meeting, someone was a bit concerned that we were not going to make maximum use of the facilities available. But I think what you've just outlined is absolutely amazing. So thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Schmier.
Yeah, just to echo exactly what Councillor Fisher just said, that was a really thorough presentation, so thank you very much for bringing that to us. There's one, suppose, question I've got, and it kind of comes on to the bit that they were so thorough, and you probably will have this in this, or is more, perhaps a little bit more of the granular detail. You mentioned right at the end about sort of trying to get sort of people perhaps not the traditional sort of customers, sort of answering that question, why are we here? The job of a museum service is to promote the heritage of the county to as wide a population as possible, and obviously there are mechanisms to do that, getting more people into the museums, but also getting groups that may not engage so much. And I suppose with regards to that sort of corporate offer, I'm just thinking sort of for schools, for charities, and I suppose I have to declare an interest here, but I do work for a charity, to try and get them, because there is a shortage of conference and venue space in the city. So there's the commercial side of it, which is income generation, of course, and I totally understand that. But then there's also the public good and trying to promote what we do at the museum service. Again, where's the balance there? Is there some kind of sort of tiering of pricing, etc.?
Thank you. Really, really good question. And I mean, ultimately, we're community assets. that's what we are, and we absolutely recognise that, and that's also recognised in our pricing. So yes, we do have bands, and we do recognise that different organisations and different partners, particularly those we have relationships with, we need to sort of balance that generating a return, obviously covering costs, but also recognising that where we are working in partnership, where organisations are working in a sort of complementary vein, or where they're community organisations that we sort of value, we are able to sort of reflect that within the pricing. So I think, as with our admissions pricing, we do take a sort of nuanced approach to reflect the fact that, even sites like Norwich Castle, which are major sort of, national and international tourist attractions, are still part of the fabric of Norwich and Norfolk, and we have a duty to sort of recognise that. And I think that is built into the commercial approach that we have, and we have, a range of really successful partnership relationships working with a whole range of organisations, and where we are able to facilitate use of our spaces, as long as we're not having to sort of subsidise it effectively, then that's something we're very aware of, and alongside the need to maximise income as well. So it's getting that balance right, as you say.
Yeah, lots of good things going on there. Something that occurred to me watching that, a lot of people don't realise we've got 10 museums, and I know we've got leaflets in the museums, but I wondered if we had a large board at the exit. Now visit one of our other 9 museums with a nice picture of each museum on there. It's just a thought.
Well, we do actively promote our other sites, and anybody who's been into Norwich Castle and gone into the shop recently will have seen behind the till the enormous Miffy promoting Yarmouth. And again, we try to sort of cross-promote as much as possible. But I guess for me, the key vehicle we use to do that is the Museums Pass. And we do very actively promote Museums Pass, and with the investment, as we mentioned earlier, from the Museum Renewal Fund, that's something we're hoping to build even further, so that the more people we can get holding a Museums Pass, then it's much easier to make them aware of the range of the offer that we have. And as you say, John, we've got fantastic, 10 fantastic sites across the service. So we do use sort of traditional marketing to promote sites. We do use those little interventions like the wonderful Miffy poster at Norwich Castle. But I think for me, it's using the Museum Pass as the vehicle for enabling as many people as possible, as cost effectively as possible, to engage with the 10 wonderful museums we have.
And I can recommend the quiche at Norwich Castle if you haven't tried it. And they do a couple of good local beers as well. Right, anything else at this point from anybody? No? And back to Robin then. Okay.
It's myself, John. So just to draw the reporting to a conclusion, just to say, under Arts Council England, the heading that we have, again, formal thanks to Ellen in terms of her support as our relationship manager. Huge thank you to Arts Council on top of our key funding for the support for the Museum Renewal Fund, which will help us, again, address some of our financial goals and our resilience, and support that Museum Pass promotion, and that's the long-term sustainability of the service that's deeply embedded with the success of the Museum Pass there. Since we last spoke to you, we've had a number of visits from Arts Council England directors, senior directors, Mags Patton, Hazel Edwards, Claudia West, and other colleagues. So again, hugely thankful to them and other Arts Council colleagues for their long-term support, and for their wisdom and advice as we've tackled various challenges and developed our various programmes. So museum development South East, I won't go into a big update here. You've seen the report. Jamie and colleagues, and working with Brighton and Hove, continue to do a great job supporting the museums across the southeast of England, and that programme is in a really good place as well. So Arts Council supports us through many strands, many funds, and many ways, but we're grateful for all of them. I will hand over finally to Joe just for a quick few headlines on the current NPO programme for which you have the table in front of you. So final thoughts from Joe just in terms of our current update on NPO business plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. You'll be pleased to know that I won't go through the activity plan template with you line by line, because all of it will hopefully look very familiar to what you have just heard in Steve's report and also Robin's presentation. Everything we've talked about today, early years, provision, kick the dust, keep development, teaching museum, it has all been covered. But I'm very happy to answer any questions that you may have about any of the elements. One thing to say is that at the moment in the Q2 update, that was produced before we had all the data back from our Insight and Analytics team, they're called. We're working with them currently to review how we gather data and how we process it. And so to ensure that we get more robust, timely reporting on not just visitor numbers, but really detailed information on schools, groups and informal learning activities. And that will then feed into this appendix for Q3 and 4. The other thing to flag to you is that Ellen keeps a risk register on Norfolk Museum Service as an NPO, National Portfolio Organisation, and I report that back to you at every JMC, just to let you know the risk rating has not changed. It is 7 out of 15, so we're rated as a moderate risk, and that means that we don't get a sort of higher level monitoring by Ellen and her colleagues. But the risk rating, that it highlights risks that you will be familiar with because we've talked about them in here in terms of cost pressures, delays to the keep opening, things like that. But the risk rating also acknowledges that we, or you as the committee, manage and have mitigations in place for those risks. Just very finally to say that I think you're all aware that our current National Portfolio Organisation grant runs 23 to 2026. That has been extended. We have confirmation that that will run into 26-27, although the Arts Council are currently awaiting their settlement from the DCMS. So once that's all happened, we'll know what our grant figure will be for next year. And there is also now a plan to extend it a year further to 27-28, which is very good news. So yes, so that's everything to do with Arts Council reporting. Very happy to answer any questions.
Okay, yes, this is the questions on the activity plan, which is on page 115 to 127. Councillor Kybird.
Yeah, just Arts Council funded 3 people from Norfolk to attend a Leadership Essentials course in Warwick University this week, and I'd just like to express my thanks for that course, which was very useful.
Good, well done. Right, any further questions? No, all done. Right, anything else on performance and strategy before we go to the recommendations? No, well, the recommendations are that we receive an update on the 2025-26 performance to date. We note the impact of the completion of the Norwich Castle Royal Palace Reborn project. We note the progress in terms of our key Arts Council England and National Lottery Heritage Fund programmes for 2025-26 and the service's delivery of its Arts Council England National Portfolio Organisation programme for 2023 to 2027. All happy with that? Thank you. That concludes the meeting then. Thank you all very much for attending.